Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your elevated creativity, more joy, and prosperity. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been living an intuitive life for decades as a creative. That translates to transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 27 years through two businesses as a business strategist and a life designer. And prior to that, an entertainment publicist and talent manager. Follow Your Joy is an entrepreneurial resource for creatives sharing their challenge to victory stories through the lens of listening to their intuition. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic for you, but you will live the beautiful life meant just for you. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. Wow, hello creatives. Happy September. I believe that's where we're at. Wow. So I am a big believer that our inner confidence, belief in ourselves, and self-love are the first and foremost accessories we wear. Second, to our outer clothes in our wardrobe. You think so too? I mean, think about that. How important it is, and it is an accessory. It's a really important accessory, is that inner. Right? So my guest today brings all that together, right, in the way that she serves the world. She calls herself an expression expert, where she helps bring out the woman's true essence. Maybe there's some men, but we'll find out. With style and align it to their brand and their messaging. She has 40 years experience as a female corporate executive in a very male field. I know she has some to say about that. And she says her purpose is to help everyone stand in their power and contribute their purpose to the world with style, grace, and kindness. And we will find out what all that means. So she is an author of newly released in April book. So that's what 70 looks like. The Essence of Aging Gracefully. What a great title. She's a much in demand podcast, a TEDx speaker, a stylist, a go-to stylist for Carrie Murphy's It Factor, a community leader, and a boomer bridging the gap with millennials. I like that. And she's fun and chic and smart. And I want to welcome Bobbie Casalino-Lewis to Follow Your Joy. Welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
You're so welcome. So I have to share, everyone, is that, unless I know the person that's coming on to obviously my podcast, I like to do, a pre-recording, connection and chat. Well, let me tell you something. Literally the last 16 years that I've been in this business and the industry, Bobbie and I we know every single person the same. We've been in the same circles. We literally have been coached by some of the same people. Our colleagues are the same people, and we have never met until now. I don't know. That's so, to me, I mean, divine timing. Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Timing. Yeah. I mean, literally. It's like going to a high school reunion. Oh yeah, this person and that person and that. Yeah, we never met. We were on the same campus, walking the same halls, right?
And we live in an area that, you trip over people.
That's right.
So
we're in the same area. We're in the South Bay area. So, all right. So I'm grateful. Good. here we are. So let's start talking about, share the highlights of, your journey. In other words, what happened in your life that led you to being this expression expert stylist?
Oh my goodness. Are you going to ask me the easy question
Easy question.
first, huh?
Highlight. Let's do highlights. Yeah.
hmm Well, I think a lot of it had to do with growing up. Um, I had curly hair when curly hair wasn't popular and they didn't know what to do with it. I wore hand-me-downs. I had a family that escaped from Europe, and they were all in the tailoring business. So you can honestly say that, you know, style and fashion was in my fiber because that's what their skills were. I learned how to sew really early on a treadle machine. And clothes were a differentiator for me. They were the one thing that I could go to where I could, be creative and put it together. And plus, it was accessible.
Mhm.
So, um, and how people looked and how they acted. And I was always looking for a mentor, and it turned out, and role models, and it turned out I didn't have any to speak of. My mother was certainly not a role model, but I had an Aunt Sonia and a couple of other women who took me under their wing and taught me how to do fine stitching, and taught me the beauty of something that was well constructed. And my Uncle Jack had a coat factory. So from the time I was little, I had amazing jackets and coats. One in particular, which caused a scar in my chin because I took a spin and the floors had been polished, and I went down on one of those rag rugs,
Right.
and I landed right on my chin in front of two grandmothers and a nurse neighbor, right? So I was taken care of immediately. But the thing was, I was wearing this jacket. I was maybe 8 years old, 6 years old. I remember it distinctly. And it was gray heather and it had pink leather on the pockets. So it looked like one of those ski jackets that they wore in the 1950s
Right.
ski resort movies.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the jacket I was showing off. That was my latest. So, so clothes have always been mile markers in my life, along with the people that I got them from and who helped me create them.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Love that. So you were absolutely in the, if you will, the fashion business. Your family was in that. Yeah. So give us a little bit of kind of overview of this corporate life that you had, and why and when did you jump
Yeah. Well, it was really 40 years. I did they didn't call it a gap year then, but I took my retirement early after I came out of college. What I had gone to school for and what I wanted to do is certainly not what I wound up doing. I was to be a probation officer. I was in the justice realm, sociology, social services.
shift?
And it, when I came out of college, when I graduated, it was in the 60s. I went through college in the 60s, and all the things that happened in the 60s, I happened to have been close to all of them, not by preference, just by luck, I guess. And so when I graduated, the only opportunities that were available to me, if you know anything about the East Coast, was in Newark, New Jersey, downtown Newark, New Jersey, which had just finished having all kinds of riots. And, to do that was it just wasn't. So I tried to be a flight attendant, and I finally got hired by United, but then they were paying me much less than were willing to pay me much less, and I had to be on call than what I was making working at this wonderful place called the Bicycle Club. And it was this sound like it was the Cheers of Inglewood Cliffs, New Jersey, and everybody hung out there and everybody knew each other, and it was just one of those places. It was a runaway hit. And so I was working there and traveling and taking ballet lessons and riding horses. So I really, after I came out of college, I had 5 years of, doing whatever the heck I wanted.
Mm.
And I'd go into work and I'd make $300 cash in one night. And I'd go out the next day and blow it on clothes and go back the next night and make what I needed to pay the rent. So it was just, it was a very hand to mouth environment, but it was great. It was fun and it was challenging. So I waited on tables there for a couple of most of the 5 years. And I had this group of guys that would come in on Thursday night. They were tennis players and they were all lawyers and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, they were really civil. They were really nice to me. And what we called call customers, they would sit at anybody else's table. I had to be their server.
Mhm.
And I knew what they all drank. I had it all on the table. I knew where they sat, so everything was there when they came in. And we'd banter, we'd always banter, 5, 6 guys and me. So there was always banter. But one night, one of them looked up at me and they go, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And they go, "Yeah, what are you doing here? We know that this is not the end of the road for you." And I said, "I'm waiting to be discovered." And they said, "Discovered?" I said, "Yeah, discovered." And they said, "Discovered for what?" I said, "For my career." And one of the guys had a brother who had just started, was investment banker,
Mm.
and he had just started a new venture marketing beepers. Okay, so this was what, 1973,
Wow.
74?
Yeah.
Yeah, early in telecom. And he said, "Oh my God, he needs somebody like you." And I said, "Okay." So dressed myself up the next day, went down to Wall Street, met with a guy by the name of David Post.
Mm.
Page America was just being birthed, and he hired me.
Look at that.
And it was
Mhm.
from there. 3 years later, I was actually the one who gave the due diligence presentation to the penny stocks in Colorado,
Hmm.
and we went public and just kept going from there. Worked and negotiated deals for incorporating beepers as a guest service for hotels. So it was with the Hyatts of the world and the Hiltons and this, that, and the other thing. And then my next book, the important men I've met in my life, that may be in the next book, because some of these guys were crazy, like the Pritzker family and the Van Leeuwen family, who were the Hilton heirs.
Yeah.
So it was pretty amazing. And from there, stayed with Page America for, I don't know how long it was, a number of years, until someone else tapped into me and said, "Hey, there's an organization down on Wall Street called SIAC, Securities Industry Automation Corporation, and they could really use somebody with your skill set." They were providing services to the American, New York, and all the stock exchanges, the Chicago Board of Trade, Exchange, and all that. And I said, "Okay, so I'll go talk to them." So I talked to them, and they hired me. so,
Yeah.
so I was down on the New York Stock Exchange and the American Stock Exchange floors almost every day of the week.
Oh.
I had a badge, I had, all that. So, yeah, so it was an amazing time, and it just kept layering onto itself until then I was invited from that business to over to a company called IPC, Interconnect Planning Corp, and they were the premier um, company of manufacturing, installation, and maintenance and design of the trading turrets. So if you've seen any of the Wall Street movies, they're hitting buttons and talking on the phone and all that kind of stuff. Well, I went in as a project manager to manage the installations of those trading rooms,
Okay.
and rose to be the first female vice president in that company and any other company on Wall Street that dealt with the trades. So we were a local 3 shop, which was a very powerful electrical union. So yeah, it was quite a ride. It was quite a ride, and it just happened basically organically. But
Yeah.
the springboard was working at the bicycle club.
The bus, yes, that was the door opener. So speak to us, and then let's talk after this about, how you ended up choosing to, move into where you're at now. But this is a very male industry. Talk about how you navigated that, right? How did you navigate your mindset, your own female, if you will, strengths and intuition and all of that? So how did you navigate this world between, what does it sound like, the 70s to the what, late 80s?
Late 80s, that's the early 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s, I moved to California. So I didn't leave the corporate world because I just shifted coasts.
Yeah, I just moved.
But I didn't leave the corporate world until May of 2013,
2015.
and then gave myself 2 years.
Uh,
So 2015 is when I really shifted, really shifted, because after that many years of conditioning, 40 years of conditioning, you need to take some time and recalibrate. You just can't shift gears like that. You have to develop a new pattern, a new schedule, new rhythm to your life, and be in charge.
Yeah.
So but my intuition was always kind of my aura. Best way I can explain it, just I knew when something sounded right. If it sounded right, I did the gut check and it felt right. Like, yeah, I'm gonna try that.
Nice.
And also, I kind of knew when it was time to go. But I always left on my terms, even the last one. And it was I manifested what I wanted. I wrote it out very clearly with a timeline, and I got what I wanted.
So it sounds like to me, and this is something that I love coaching my women, is the blend of the masculine, feminine, right? Which I know you're familiar with. And it sounds like that's what you were really good at, is that you really balanced the blend. You never surrendered, if you will, your intuitive, natural, assets while you were in this very structured, strategic, right, practical, linear, logical world. You were probably obviously very, very good at that part, the masculine. And it's not gender, everybody. Masculine, feminine is principle.
Just yin and yang.
It's just a principle. It's not gender. But yeah, that's what it sounds like. Is that correct? That you were pretty
absolutely. And the universe always had my back. One quick little story.
Yeah.
And I think it typifies. It's in my book, but it typifies kind of a day in my life. We were working installing trading rooms at a boutique brokerage house up on like 73rd Street, 72nd Street, somewhere around there, between Madison and Park. And it was, one of these narrow buildings, and we had disputes all the time on the work site. Who picked up the garbage? Who swept out that corner? You did all this kind of stuff. I'm like, really, guys, really? But that's what happens when you're working with trades and you're working with unions and non-union and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a million stories that I could recount. But this day in particular, we had our construction meeting and we talked about the debris. And, you guys pick up this, my guys sweep it to here, you guys pick it up there. So I get to the site that day, and all my guys are out on the street. All the trades are out on the street, sitting on the street. I go, what are you guys doing out here? They go, we're sick of it. We're sick of this, and you go, and they said, take the one supervisor, not my guys, but the other guys, pulls me aside and he goes, see that skid of bricks up there? I said, I do. And he says, it's got your name on it. I said, really? I looked down the street. I swear on a stack of Bibles, I had not seen it before. I don't know where it came from. There was a dumpster the length of a city block that also had my name on it, because Casalino was in the oil and garbage business, right? So the family. So I looked and I go, that's funny. So does that dumpster. He goes, everybody back to work now, everybody back to work. I never had a problem on any job site ever again for the rest of my term there.
Nice.
And I was dressed to the nines. I had pumps on. I mean, so I always looked the part. And even that, I didn't fight fire with fire. You know, he's talking skid of bricks. And I'm like, really? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, you navigated it through.
Hoping for a miracle, and there was one.
There was one. Very cool.
There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories.
Cool.
But
So,
I was always dressed.
Yeah.
You know, and feminine. And my department, when I was VP, I had 23 project managers, all women, everyone more capable and more magnificent than the next.
Nice.
We ran the street. We ran the street.
Yeah, I bet you did. I bet you did. With you at the helm, I'm sure.
We had fun. And we had fun too. We partied. We partied.
Very, very good. So, all right. So then in 2013, when now you're at 40 years, okay, time to go to into the, if you will, image business. What happened?
Well, I do this quite a bit. When I'm really stuck, I look myself in the mirror and I go, what lights you up? What do you want to do that would really light you up?
Yeah.
So, helping other people feel good about themselves was the thing that just kept coming to me. And how I was going to do that was still to be determined, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to help other people feel good about themselves. Because growing up, I didn't have anybody that could help me feel good about myself. So you always want to give and teach what you didn't have.
Yeah, for sure. What lights you up? I think that needs to be part of your brand. Right? If it's not already, it's not already. I love that. So you looked in the mirror, you said, what lights you up? This chapter's done. Thank you, God, for all that. Fabulous run. It's time for a reinvention. Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. Same thing when I went from the 20 some odd years of entertainment PR to what I didn't know was going to be coaching, is I put it out to the universe. I go, okay, it's time. Great run. What's next? I'm being pulled. It was a divine urge. It was an intuitive, okay, come on, go.
Yeah. Well, and you know what else too? It's like you have to be cognizant of what your gifts are, right? What are you really good at?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what that is, then you need to knuckle down on that. You know, I mean, we always concentrate. We're always concentrating in all coaching arenas and stuff like that. In the beginning, you're like, "What's your limiting belief?" And I kept saying, "I don't have one. I don't have any limiting beliefs." I did finally discover what my limiting belief was about a year ago, and that was, it was underneath the surface, but that what I did was fluffy.
It was soft. It was a soft skill.
Yeah. It was fluffy. It wasn't important. And then I dug deeper on the research and found out, no. Scientifically proven, measurable. What you wear is not fluffy. It's important.
Never. Yeah. Interesting.
But that was my limiting belief, right? So
okay.
yeah.
Right.
So I knew that I had a good eye. I knew that I had a good eye. That I knew that I had that skill set. I knew that I could find bargains without looking too hard. And I knew color and dimension. I mean, even to this day, there's pieces that I'll bring into the house, furniture wise or whatever. And my husband will look at it and go, how did you match that color?
Yeah.
I said, I just knew. How did you fit it into that space where there's only 2 inches on each side? I just knew.
Yeah, it's part of your genius zone. You know what that is, right?
Mhm.
You know about the genius.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I define when you say, one of the important things is to know what are you good at, what are your talents. And it fits in the beautiful framework of obviously the big leap, right? And this is also part of my programs, is I take all my entrepreneurs through that so that they know what to delegate, what to get off their plates, and what to stay in their happy place, which is their zone of genius, the talents that you're talking about. So
Mhm.
you then discovered this, or you brought it up to the surface and went, okay, between colors and the dimensions and all of this that you just explained, what was the defining, if there was, what was the defining moment that went, yeah, I think I need to go over here and start helping people feel good about themselves in their clothes from the inside out.
It was a slow roll. I'll
Okay.
tell you, it was a slow roll.
Okay.
It
Okay.
wasn't a sharp pivot because
Got
I
it.
had always been helping. I had always been helping people. They go, "Oh, go ask Bobbie. She'll know what to put with that." Or maybe she has something she can loan to you, or she'll know the store you can get that at, or this, that, or other thing. So it was kind of it was a slow pivot. It was just kind of a slow curve, but it jived completely with all the tools that I already had.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
to me, it sounds like you were again following your intuition, right? You were following the breadcrumbs, you were following the divine, downloads, whatever you want to call it.
I was
Yeah.
following my joy.
Following
I was
your,
joyful,
there you go.
right?
Following
I
your
was
joy.
joyful.
That's
I
it.
was joyful, on the way to work in the morning, when I was on Wall Street at IPC, there was a store called Century 21. And it's kind of like a TJ Maxx on steroids.
Oh,
I mean, so they would get new merchandise in every single day. So I would stop on the way to work and I'd grab a few things, boots, shoes, coats, whatever. I'd take them to work, I'd try them on there, and then on the way home, I'd return what I didn't want. So it's
yeah.
always that way.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and that makes sense. I mean, a slow, roll is you allowed it to unfold, right? And I call that the, receiving, it's the feminine mode, meaning we allow it to express itself. We lean back, we're in receiving mode. We're not in, okay, what is it? And what do I need to do? What are the actions I need to take? Instead, you did it really beautifully, which was leaning back and allowing it to emerge.
Right.
Yeah.
And in alignment with my human design, which I'll just drop that in here,
Mhm.
my human design as a mental projector, so
Mhm.
I'm wide open, which
Mhm.
explains why I can't be around a lot of noise and large groups of people for too long a period of time, introvert, whatever. I'm not an introvert, I'm an extrovert, but I'm an introvert to recharge.
Yeah, you said
And
empath.
Yeah, but one of the things about it being a projector is we see things very clearly. So think
Sure.
of a projector, a movie projector, right? So
Mhm.
it's laser focus. We understand and see things very clearly, which totally suits my life.
Mm.
But we see things so clearly that we must wait for the invitation to share our observation.
Hmm.
So I was lucky enough to, at some level, understand that and waited for the invitations.
What do you mean by
So,
that? Waited for what invitation? From whom?
well, from anyone, from potential clients, from coaches, I had to wait for the invitation to share my insight on things.
Mhm.
So, in working with clients, I couldn't go tell people, look, you need a makeover. I had to wait for them to see that they needed help and then ask for it or get referred.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
I mean, you can set the table. You can
Yeah.
set the table,
Mhm.
but you have to wait for acquiescence on some level from
Sure.
the other person or person.
Yeah. Well, it's the buy-in. It's instead of assuming unsolicited
Right,
advice.
right, because that's just like throwing your head against a wall.
Yeah, it's not asked for. It's not asked for. Okay. Wonderful. So putting kind of all this together before we kind of finish up here, the basis of Follow Your Joy, right? My messaging, my platform, how I operate is all about, as you know, intuition. So it sounds like to me that an example then of, you listening to your intuition that turned into a very, positive, fulfilling result was you back at the bicycle club. So how, connect the dots for us, how was that following your intuition, knowing to work at the bicycle club, that it would lead somewhere? Is that the intuitive piece?
Well, I think putting myself in that environment
Mhm.
was definitely intuition. It was a hit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard about it, and at that time, you want to wait on tables, you want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, I heard that was a good place to make money.
Sure. Especially at that
So
age, right? Especially at that young age.
yeah, 22, 23.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also nurturing the relationships. So, those 4 or 6 guys, I nurtured that relationship.
Sure. Well, it
And
was all intuitive led, even at that young age. And then obviously, your intuition has, grown and deepened, as you've evolved yourself.
yeah,
And you take that into your work. So talk a little bit about what you're doing today, the name of your business, and then talk about your beautiful book.
I will,
Mhm.
thankfully. And also just that intuition, I kind of look at life as like flying a kite.
Mhm.
You don't let all the string out at once. You kind of feed it, like,
Mhm.
feed it
Yeah.
so that kite goes up and it stays up.
Very good.
Um, yeah. But what I'm doing now is, and my brand, I'm not a company, I am my brand,
Okay.
and it's just BobbieCasalino-Lewis.com. That's who I am. I
Mhm.
went through names. I went through Fashionably Wealthy, inspired by BCL. I mean, inspiration was in there. But now I just, kept it at just what I put forward in the world
Mhm.
is what I do.
Mhm.
So I want to bring out everyone's glow.
Nice.
And sometimes it's just by recognizing and dealing with, who they are, obviously having that conversation, but also, when they look in the mirror and they light up over themselves, I go, wow, I never looked this good before. Or, ooh, these are pieces of clothing that have been hanging in my closet. I never would have thought to put them together this way, but I love it. Look what it does,
Yeah.
So just that fearless, a little bit more fearless way of going forward.
Mhm.
So, my book was the genesis of turning 70, which I did in 2020. I like to do something new every year for my birthday. In 2020, there weren't a lot of options, if you recall.
That's for sure.
And people kept telling me, "Oh, gosh, you don't look like 70. You're really turning 70? I can't believe you're turning 70." So, once again, I looked myself in the mirror on the morning of my birthday, and I looked myself in the mirror and I go, "Oh, so that's what 70 looks like."
Yeah.
And
Very good.
birthed my book. So
So
that's
that's
what
what there it
70 looks
is.
like.
Yeah.
That's what 70 looks like, the essence of aging gracefully.
Yeah.
Because aging is inevitable,
Mhm.
getting old is an option.
Nice. Very nice. So it's your book, as you were sharing with me earlier. I mean, it does. It looks like a beautiful coffee table book. It's not a hardbound book you sit and read and highlight. It's
No,
very
no.
aesthetically, pleasing
Yeah, it's
stories.
all stories. It's all stories from my life. The Skidderbrick story is in it and a couple of others that we didn't mention.
Okay.
But it's a matter, I quote in my introduction, I close my introduction with a something that Carl Jung said,
Mm.
and he said that the greatest burden of a child is the unlived life of their parent.
Ooh.
And I said, oh,
Ooh.
that is not happening on my watch.
Oh
So
boy.
once you get to a certain age, people, I think generally from the conditioning and how we've walked through life, they're either waiting for something or they're living.
Hmm.
And I chose that at 70, I was going to keep living. I wasn't going to wait for anything because waiting to me is a waste of time. And, you get up to a number like that, you're like, well, there's potentially less time in front of me than there is behind me.
Right.
So what am I going to wait for?
Hmm. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Love that. All right. And people can find then your book, obviously, on Amazon,
Hmm.
right?
And also link through my website. It's
Mhm.
there's a link on my website, and I have a video and some other things around it on my website too.
Nice. Right. And I'll put those, we'll put those in the show links, the show notes, that is, the links in the show notes. So share what it sounds like to me, what brings you the most joy in your work is, again, helping, and you said something about having or helping people light themselves up, look in the mirror and go, oh, wow, okay, I didn't even think about that. In other words, seeing the possibility. So talk a little bit about that joy that you receive from doing the work you do.
Yeah, I know we were talking before about before the recording about oxytocin and endorphins and that kind of stuff. And that's a high for me. It's really a high for me when somebody tries something new,
Mhm.
they trust me
Mhm.
enough to try it, and then they go out into the world and they get affirmation and they get compliments and they come back and they go, that's never happened to me before. To be able to change someone's perspective of themselves, think about now what they're able to do for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So once you have the aura and you have the confidence in
Mhm.
yourself, then there's no fear left in your life and you are moving forward with positivity and being a worthy contributor.
Nice.
It's
Very
just
good.
what could be better?
Well, yeah, of course.
What could be better?
Right, you're contributing to people's joy. You're contributing to people's confidence, right? In helping them, you know, um, bring that out, right, through what you do. So it's a beautiful way of expressing your genius zone, your talents to help them express theirs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's just my saying is that I bring out your inner glow with style.
that's good. Yeah, we need that inner glow. That's for sure. Whew. All right. So based then on, to finish this up, based on your, vast experience, what is a little bit of key advice, right, to our creatives listening?
Yeah, I think my advice is simple.
Mm.
Understand your core values
Mhm.
and live them.
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't deviate, but I am saying get very clear on what is core for you. And I'll give you an example. My core values are a triangle, most structurally strong um, entity.
Okay.
And mine are kindness, integrity, and bravery.
Nice.
You have to have those to get in my world.
Got it.
Not all of them.
Mm.
You've got to have some of them. And if you don't live in kindness
Mm.
and you don't live in integrity, you know, what else have you got?
Yeah. Well, it helps you, and I'm a very much big believer in this, and as well coach this as well, which is it's living an integrity life. Because when we take actions, when we make decisions based on our core values, now we're living our life. If we're not, we're living someone else's life.
Mhm.
We're not, right? We're not true to obviously who we are. So it's always so helpful and a big advantage when you can identify what are those core values. I usually say the top five, right? You've got three, and that gives you the GPS,
Mhm.
right? Let's see.
Yep.
If I'm going to make a decision if health is my number one value, then I hope you're doing things every day for your health rather than the opposite, right? So whatever it happens to be, those are. So I agree with you and obviously you have to, walk that, live that, embody it, be it.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's core. It sounds a little trite because we all talk about this, but it's very, very important. It's your guidance system.
Yeah. The hardest part for me was just discerning,
Mhm.
which I love that word, discerning what were my core values.
Mhm.
Because, we go through these big lists all the time and you cross off this and you cross off that, and you come down to 10, you come down to 5.
Right.
But the real key, do or dies.
Mhm.
That was the hard one. That was the hardest part for me. And now, I realize what I bristle at. When people are unkind, I bristle.
Yeah.
If people they lie or
Mhm.
they say one thing and do something else,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm like, and they don't own it, it's like fingernails on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
And bravery is my own personal one.
Yeah, I
Bravery.
get that.
That's just for me. I don't expect anybody else to have bravery, but I do expect them to be integrous.
Yeah, very good. Mhm. Okay. Very much to be respected, that's for sure. All of those. Super important. Okay. So where can then people find you? And is there anything that you want to offer my listeners?
I'm easy to be found because I'm just about everywhere. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
My website, I would love for you to go to bobbiecasalino-lewis.com
Okay.
and opt in. I send out a monthly newsletter, which is a very wittily written article that's about style, and I tie in some history. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Mhm.
And YouTube, I'll get more active on YouTube, but we'll put this up for sure.
Okay.
And I do have a free gift. And what I'd like to do is, if you opt in
Mhm.
to my website, I will be recording my book as an audio
Nice.
in October. So that will be available to you as a gift from me.
Ah, okay. Terrific. Well, I want to thank you so much, right, for being here and enlightening my audience and myself.
Well, this was delightful. I don't know which was more fun, the pre-call or
I
the call.
know. I
we did
agree.
a we played people Monopoly. I mean, like I've never seen before. So,
Seriously. Like I said, it was
yeah.
like being at the same high school, on the same campus, walking the same halls, going to the same lunchroom, and not even seeing each other until
Mhm.
now, right? Yeah, it's really, really great. I love that. So yes, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank
And
you for having me.
yeah, you're
These
welcome.
are the kind of conversations that light me up.
That lights you up. That's right. I kind of get that. Me too. Me too. And so a little shout out to Chelsea. Thank you for bringing us together when you listen to this, my dear. Chelsea is our common denominator.
Oh, sweet Chelsea Marie. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. All right, everyone. So yes, expression comes in many forms, right? As you heard from Bobbie. And, the inner to outer expression can beautifully speak your brand and your messaging besides how it impacts your life, right? So I encourage you all to, again, sit quietly, right? Make this a regular habit and ask your intuition about whatever you want to ask them, right? It's, I should say. And in this case, ask how you can better express yourself from the inside out, right, of course, and match that with clothes to complement it, which is exactly what Bobbie does. And reach out to her, right? She's got the expertise, as you can tell, the long time, expertise in how to do this. And yeah, I wish you a wonderful fall time. It's just starting. And there's lots more of you to come out to the world, express yourself when you follow your intuition and your joy. I love that. All right, everyone. I appreciate it. Be well, be blessed, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for listening. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my free downloads to up-level your business and your life. And Instagram. It's my favorite place to hang out. Let's connect there. If you received inspiration from the episode, I'd sure appreciate a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Until next episode, take care.